Hello there again. I'm on a roll with doing videos today. I have barely been on the road at all, and I'm already on my third one. So I guess you guys are going to get a ton of videos all at once. Anyway, today, this video, I'm going to do mostly about piracy. But in order to introduce you to my views on piracy, I really have to first go through and explain how I came about those views. There's this way of thinking that it's like utilitarianism, something that I thought up long before I ever found out there was a word for it. And also like utilitarianism, I haven't bothered to look up the word before doing this video because I just started doing the video. But at least the name of the video isn't going to be the word, so it's not going to be like staring at me from above me this whole time. Or maybe it will, maybe it'll be piracy and whatever. But the basic idea is this, that something cannot be considered right for you to do unless you can validate everyone put in the same situation taking that same course of action. Now I'll give you a couple of examples that make sense to the average everyday person. The first example is voting. Voting from a single person standpoint makes no sense. If you look at the polls and say, okay, you know, I'm going to vote for John Kerry or whoever else, your vote does not count. Your vote all by itself does not make a difference between whether one president or the other is elected. Even less so with this whole electoral college system, but that's a whole other issue. But you know, even if it was just add up the total votes for this person, add up the total votes for that person, your vote is not going to tip the scales in either direction. It just isn't going to matter. But when looked at from a large perspective, if everybody who, you know, was going to vote for the candidate you support took up that perspective, you know, then your candidate would not be elected. Your candidate wouldn't get a single vote. And that's a lot more important. And that's why people need to vote, because if nobody does it, then, you know, only the people who... Well, first of all, if nobody does it, this would be pretty screwed up. But, you know, if nobody who supports a specific candidate votes, that candidate isn't going to get elected. And so, you know, there's a first example that everyone can pretty much relate to. Another example is recycling. You know, if you throw away that one bottle, that one can, and just toss it in the trash, it's not going to make a difference. The landfill is not going to change by any noticeable percentage. Even if you throw away every can and every bottle and every piece of paper, it's not going to pile up that quickly. You know, just one person isn't going to contribute, you know, a fraction of a percentage to the total landfill out there. But again, if absolutely everybody does, if everybody throws things away and nothing gets recycled, the landfills are going to, you know, immensely increase. It's going to be horrible for the environment, even more than we're already killing this planet. It's going to be doing extremely, you know, tons of damage to this planet. And, you know, it's sometimes difficult to think in these ways, because when you're looking at the individual thing, you're thinking, you know, what difference is this little action going to make? And it isn't. You can clearly see, you know, going back to the voting thing, you can clearly see that if someone won by 5 votes, which is a, you know, minuscule margin, you know, that never happens. Even in a local election, people don't win by 5 votes. But even if someone did win by 4 votes and you didn't vote for them, or, you know, you didn't vote at all, then you voting for the other guy still only means that the same person is going to win. They're just going to win by 4 votes, you know? it's just, it seems silly to vote when put in that perspective, because it's absolutely, you're pretty much guaranteed not to actually tip the scales yourself at all. But because you're supporting your candidate, and because everyone put in your situation is also supporting that candidate, the group of you can actually make a difference. So that's basically the way of thinking behind, you know, what I've just said, behind doing something that you always, doing something because you feel that everybody else put in your same situation should do it. I know it's a mouthful. I really should look up these words before I do these videos. But I've completely danced around to the point. The final point is that when put into that perspective, pirating music is wrong. And, you know, you can look at it as, okay, if I download this song, this musical artist is still going to be, you know, a millionaire, and I'm still going to be poor, so what the heck am I paying for music for? And when put in that single way, you're right. You know, the musical artist doesn't need your individual support, but he does need your support as a group, our support as a group. You know, if absolutely everybody stopped buying CDs tomorrow, musical artists just wouldn't get heard anymore. They couldn't afford to put songs on the radio anymore. They couldn't afford to go on tour, which, you know, is where a lot of their stuff comes from. But they couldn't afford to produce CDs anymore, at the very least. Maybe they could still afford to go on tour. Maybe they could still afford to play in concerts and such. But they could not afford to put things on CD anymore. So the only recordings of them you'd be able to get is people recording them at concerts. You know, none of these nice studio recordings that you hear on the radio and that you hear on CDs would be something that they could actually afford to do. So, you know, if you don't buy CDs, there aren't going to be CDs, and there aren't going to be music to download, at least not of any significant quality. And so that's basically my basis for why I download CD, why I buy CDs rather than downloading music. Other than, of course, downloading through pay programs where the money actually does get back to the artist. The only valid arguments I've heard in the other direction is that people do believe that CDs cost too much, and they're boycotting CDs simply for the sake of reducing the price. And that's something that I can agree with. That's something that I can look at it and say, you know, that still fits into my philosophy. Because, again, the specific wording on my philosophy is that everyone put in that particular situation has to do that particular thing. And if you specify that particular situation as not just, you know, not buying CDs ever, but as only buying CDs when they're a reasonable price, then it all works out. You know, people buying CDs only when they see them below $10 still kind of works, because at that point, you know, the musical artist will still be getting it. CDs will reduce in price eventually if nobody's buying them at the current price, and, you know, eventually things will stabilize. And that's definitely something I can support. I don't do it myself, and if I start doing it, I'm not going to tell you about it on YouTube, because, you know, talking about illegal activities on YouTube is stupid. But my overall point is not whether I do it or not, but whether I consider it wrong or not. And, you know, even though that's illegal, I don't consider it wrong at that point if that's really the purpose you're doing. But you have to set up some kind of specific standard, some kind of, demands that you feel must be met. Like, I will buy CDs once the price gets down to $10. At that point, if there's music that you enjoy, that you see on a CD that costs less than $10, it's your obligation at that point to buy it. Or at least stop listening to it until you buy it, because at that point your demands have been met. And in order to be moral about it, you need to decide to buy that CD. Let's see. There's something else that I can't... Crap, don't you hate that? Okay, I can't remember what else I was going to say on this subject, so I'm just going to shut up now, because this is starting to become another one of those long-ass videos. I got 2 short ones in the beginning, but now I've just been rambling on forever. You can tell the subjects that I'm really passionate about. Okay, so this is my video on piracy, and why I finally remembered it. Okay, so you thought you were rid of me, but you can see at the bottom that there's still probably like 5 minutes left in this video. So you could tell I wasn't actually coming to a close. Okay, the other thing I want to tell you about, or mention, or explain, is piracy of other things. And a lot of other situations where I feel piracy is okay, even though it's still illegal. I think there's a significant difference between what is illegal and what is actually wrong, and that's simply proved by the fact that laws are different in every place. So, unless one particular set of laws got it right, every other set of laws has to be, not lining up with what is actually right and wrong. And morality is all relative anyway, so the point is, there are certain situations where doing illegal things I still feel is okay. And many of those situations involve when you're still planning to actually still purchase something. I don't feel that it's wrong to pirate it first in order to get faster. For instance, if, there's a comic book coming out and your store doesn't have it in stock, I don't want to say coming out actually, but there's a comic book that's already out, but your comic book store doesn't have it in stock, but they're ordering it for you. And so it's on the way. You're going to pay for it as soon as it gets there, but, you haven't yet, and you want to read it right then. At that point, I feel that it is morally right to go ahead, get on the internet, go on to some piracy site, download the comic book, they're all out there, and read it. And then, still buy it. That's the important part. If after reading it you say, I don't want to buy this anymore because I already read it, that's a problem. But if you still want to buy it, that's awesome. That's great. That's, I feel, one of the correct uses of piracy, of getting something for no money, because you're going to pay for it anyway. All in all, the message of this video, because I am getting pretty close to school, is support creators. Support the artwork they do, support the music they create, support artists, because, a lot of us out there want to be artists. I don't fancy myself much of a musician, and if you've heard my singing, you can probably tell that, but, there are a lot of people out there who are trying to do this for a living, and they need your support. Even if, you do it in very particular ways, and even if you don't do it legally. I'm not saying you should do everything legally, but you should do what is morally right. And it's definitely morally right to pay for things that you appreciate, pay for things that you enjoy. So that's about all for now. I'm at my school. I already said I would end this video a long time ago, so I'm going to end it now. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.